We are live.
There's one in Trout. Is that right?
Sorry?
It says there's one in Trout.
I honestly, I'm not so sure. I mean, when I first met him, he spoke that language.
Okay, my friends, that's the way to do it, to do the Zohar backwards. Okay, Shabbos, Yontif. So, this week we'll learn about the Shema, the Torah. And in the Shema it says that you should tie the tefillin on your head. It's a sign on your head. And on your hand and a sign on your head. So there's the Zohar says Tana b'razat ilah b'sifat tzniusa. We taught a deep secret in Sifat Tzniusa. That's a section that, thank you, is specifically esoteric, even for the Zohar. Tlas chalalan desabn rishiman esgalim be begalusa tzer ampen. Don't mind the Aramaic.
So who wrote that sefer?
That's the Zohar.
What?
This is Zohar. It's a section of the different sections of the Zohar.
I thought it was a different machaber.
No. This is the same.
Sefer.
No, this is a section of the Zohar.
I didn't know that. El Sinusa means hidden.
Yeah, exactly. So if the Zohar is calling like a section the hidden secrets, it's like extra hidden.
Extra, I see.
Yeah. That means like relative to many of the other sections of the Zohar is like pshat compared to the Sifat. There's a few sections of the Zohar that are particularly esoteric. Like the Idris, there's two Idris. Idra Rabba, Idra Zuta. Also very mystical. So anyway, it says there, and there's where it's a lot of kind of discussions about levels of different things that are very detailed. Tlas chalalan desavan rishiman. There's three spheres that have these letters, not actual letters, but like the rishima means when you have the kind of when something is not defined yet, but it's like when you wanted to, in the temple actually, when they wanted to designate how they were going to like connect certain things, they would designate this one with that one, like with a symbol. So that what it represents is something that's symbolically there, but not actually there. It's like marking it for the future. It's prepare. It's and that's revealed in the level of the Gulgalta of Zer Anpin, which essentially means that what we're talking about is the particular descent of the divine influence into making the process of being able to receive. Each one of these are stages of the infinite becoming more perceptible. Those are the three vessels, so to speak. They correspond to the letters, the three letters of God's name, the Yud, and then the Hey, and then the Vav. Tanin and Tlas Mochi Inan. So there are these three elements of, for lack of a better word, levels of intellect. The stimum be'inin chalalim, that are concealed or enclosed within the framework of these like three. One of the things that the Zohar talks about is that the head, the skull, is the place in which, on the one hand, the mind is encased in, and on the other hand, so we would say on some level the brain is protected by the skull, but on another level, in the fact that the skull is above the brain, it represents a broader perspective than the brain, which is always changing its focus, the mind. So it represents what we call ratzon. It represents will or desire. But at a certain point, that has to invest itself to the mind, to the levels of what we call chachma, bina, and das, three stages of mental development.
Yeah.
So this is going to get a lot easier, don't worry, guys. It's just like the hard part in the beginning.
No, I'm going to call him. Take it.
The stima b'ina chalalan mamshechus demachli stima d'antika kadisha. So, why is it so secretive? Because this is not a regular mind where we understand something, but this is the mind of Atika Kadisha. Atika Kadisha means the one that is removed and holy, which is generally speaking what we refer to as the Ritzonai Ritzonot, the will within the will. Very, very transcendent level in Kabbalah. Really usually the beginning of something, not quite yet, it's still nothing, but will lead to everything is based on it, yet it isn't in the classic sense of isn't, meaning it's not perceptible yet. The ismashach bahu zer anpin, and it becomes drawn into and enclosed into zer anpin, which are the emotional sfirot. Ishachu arba mochi, and then you have 4 levels of mind. Okay. These 4 mental abilities spread throughout that body of Zer Anpin, of these emotions. And these 4 vessels of the 4 mental aspects of Chachma, Bina, Chesed, and Gvura. Now you could say, what's the relationship between wisdom and emotions, the 2 emotions of love and fear? Is because really there's another mentality called das. Das is when your mind leads you to have an emotional connection to something. And when your mind leads you to have an emotional connection to something, there's really two primary aspects of that emotional connection. Any other aspect is a derivative of those two, or a combination of those two. And those are chesed and gvura. Those are love and fear. There's a lot of other emotions. There's 6 basic emotions that Zohar usually deals with. Obviously, there are no two loves are alike, supposedly. I don't know if we can scientifically demonstrate that that's true. Yes?
Is Zohar often a Hebrew word or
It's Aramaic.
It's Aramaic?
Yeah.
And it's translated as...
Well, it's irrelevant what the translation is right now. Zohar actually means small-faced. Because the first levels that we're talking about are usually referred to as arich. Arich is long-faced. The reason for that, in a nutshell, is an adult stays calm longer, supposedly, than a child. A child has shorter attention span. So when you get to the emotions, you're like a kid, emotional people. The Torah is very interesting. We want you to serve God with love, but yet when there's somebody who's very emotional, like Nebuch is an emotional person. As if to say, like, watch out for them. They're moody. They're not like, they don't have a big mind because they go crazy. Even if they're smart, they go little things. So, but the funny thing is, paradoxically, Zeir Anpin, which in this reference means kind of limited, is actually transcendent. Is the Yud Kei Vav Kei relative to the Shem Elokim or Shem, the other names, the lower names of God? It's a more transcendent name. So. Is in Yiddish, there's a saying that they always say in Hasidic talk, is vensach v'meret. It depends where we're talking about, from which perspective. Relative to Arich and Atik, which is, these higher levels of Ratzon, of will, Zeir Anpin is more defined and limited. But relative to Malchus, Zeir Anpin is more transcendent. It's all...
So it's low and
The vessel then becomes the light for that which is below it. So Zeir Anpin is the vessel for Mochen, and the Mochen is the vessel for Keser, but then Malchus ultimately is the vessel for Zeir Anpin. So each one is the light of the thing that's below it. So it's all relative.
It's small-mindedness.
No, it's not small-mindedness. Absolutely not. There's an aspect of it that's smaller faced versus the bigger face. There is another concept called mochen dekatnus, but that's lower than Zeir Anpin, which means small, like limited mind. So there's lots of levels of mind kind of decreasing or increasing or expanding. So we don't want to confuse them, God forbid. They should.